Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables, and whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a café au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 249th episode of the Simple Sophisticate. Today we're going to talk about one single lesson, but it is a lesson that is a powerful one to learn for everyone, but especially for women, and to do so sooner. But before I get to that, today's petit plaisir is a film that is a British treat, a simple, fictional, cozy mystery that I enjoyed a few weeks ago and wanted to pass along to you as it hasn't been widely distributed, but it's easy to find. That will be at the end of today's episode. But now back to today's topic. I have been wanting to talk about this particular topic since I tuned into a podcast episode of Oprah's SuperSoul conversations. Back in, I think I listened to it in November. She posted it in October of 2018. I've provided a link to that episode, her podcast, on the show notes. But it was her conversation with Julia Roberts. And she asks Julia the question, what is a lesson that took you the longest to learn that you kept repeating and it kept showing up wearing a different something, but was still the same lesson? It was Julia's response that caught my attention. Here's what she said. I think we as people, or as women, or me just myself, who I am in this world, that I make myself less for someone else to feel more of whatever that thing is. Now, I've included this clip. It's about a minute long, and Oprah shared the clip on her Instagram account, so maybe you've listened to it, but I've included it on today's show notes, so you can listen exactly to Oprah's words and Julia's words. And Julia goes on to explain how this was something she recognized had finally been learned through her relationship with her husband. And she gave an example of that with her work on Homecoming that she is currently in on Amazon Prime. So it's worth taking a look at. I appreciated this even more once I went and listened to the full 2-hour conversation, because this question actually pops up at the end of their conversation. They've been talking about a lot of different things, about her career, her family life, so many different aspects of her evolution. And this comes up at the end. So there's a lot of context when she says whatever that thing is that isn't clear in that particular quote. But it has to do with her really stepping into her fullest and true self and finally finding that contentment after so many years. And I think that's something that a lot of women, and I would imagine there's men out there too, that can relate to this. So that's what we're going to talk about today, this one lesson that she said took her so long to learn, but she finally did. Now, when I heard this, as I said, it spoke to me, and I finally felt I had found a word or a phrase for what I had been doing for quite some time in my life, but couldn't understand or describe what it was and why it was causing me so much frustration. This idea of shrinking, unconsciously becoming less of who we are so that others feel more comfortable, either to avoid confrontation that is unwarranted, but we just don't want to have it, but we still choose to prevent it from occurring by not being our full and awesome selves, or by not partaking in a life path at all because we don't want to upset others or deal with the pushback. This can eventually become a habit, this shrinking. And it mistakenly becomes then something that we accept as to who we truly are. And I say it's a mistake because it is. If that's not who you truly are, then that's not where you will find your truest contentment. And you may say, but it is. I'm good at letting other people shine. I'm better at letting other people shine. You can let them shine, but you have the right to shine too. And eventually, when you shift gears and you start changing and you start being fully who you are, and we'll talk about how to do that, it's going to be uncomfortable for some of those people that have been around you and have seen and accepted you for what you are doing and like that because it works for them. And that's why a lot of people stay put. They just don't want to push past that initial, and it does take a while, but eventually we'll get past it, pushback from others. This habit of shrinking is something that I became accustomed to for a long time with my family, my friends, and in relationships, romantic relationships. But thankfully, I have found myself in the last 5 to 8 years, so the better part of my 30s, having just turned 40 now, of refusing to do this. And I remember in the first romantic relationship that I finally found my voice. The relationship went a lot differently than other relationships. And that particular relationship ended because I spoke up and said no. I spoke up and said something, noticed something that I had clearly set a boundary on, and something had happened. There was confrontation, and a lot of us do not want confrontation. I have been one of them. Because you take it in, and it does affect your energy, and it affects your mood, and who knows how long that'll go on, and we don't want that. But I have to say it was the best and most liberating decision. We need to be okay with walking away or having that tough conversation if we do want to remain in that relationship and the other person does too. We need to be okay with that. And eventually it becomes easier because eventually we actually end up not running into those, or at least choosing to engage with people we wouldn't be compatible with anyway. But when we're younger or we're more naive or we don't understand this concept, we shrink. Because we want to get the yes. We want to hear, oh, I like you. Oh, we want to hear, oh, you've got the job, or you're in, or whatever it is we're seeking. We want that. And so if we're savvy enough, and I know the listeners of the Simple Sophisticate are very savvy, we know what we need to do to get something done. The question is, do we want to compromise ourselves in doing that? And that's the shrinking that will happen. As I mentioned, as in that one example, but in all the examples of different relationships that I've finally made the shift to not shrinking, there has been a profound sense of peace and tranquility within myself, which is especially felt when I am in my own and only company. And more importantly, I have begun to find people who accept me for who I truly am and have been more keen to gravitate toward others who as well are being themselves and do not ask or expect or want me to shrink in order to be with them. A common reaction to onlookers or individuals who have interacted with us, those of us who have become conditioned to self-select to become less, is that we are being too much of ourselves. In other words, we are being arrogant in their eyes. They skip over the observation of one simply being confident and jump to she or he is too confident, too full of themselves. But what they are really communicating is, quote, I am not comfortable with you not being who I want you to be or what I am used to you being. Now, often it is women who, when they choose to let go of being less, receive this comment from others of being too confident. I rarely hear this comment about men being too confident. Even when the man is being arrogant, they are well into the arrogant tier of confidence. I rarely hear people say he is too confident. Nope. Sadly, it's primarily women in the culture that we are in, but this is simply described as social conditioning. Even more unfortunate, it is often women, but men too. If they haven't been conditioned or around women or any individual who is not adhering to what they believe to be their social or their societal role, they will, and that's in air quotes, don't worry, they will push back. The irony is, if there are women pushing back against women being their true selves and being confident, they are actually pushing themselves down as well. Now, what does refusing to make yourself less look like? How do we do it? Certainly women can step into the realm of arrogance and go beyond simply being confident just as men can. There is no innate gene in a man versus a woman when it comes to arrogance. It's possible for each of us to do that, but it's also something that means that both of us can then exude our confidence as well. Too often, though, we fear, women especially, but anyone who has not been in the practice of exuding their self-confidence, fear this misstep, of the misstep being into arrogance, and thus never even dabble or try to exude their confidence of being exactly who they are. And here's the thing, being exactly who you are is what the world needs. So I have 3 ways that you can be your fullest self, not less and not more. And I'd like to share those with you today. Number 1, understand what true confidence is. To possess and exude confidence is to establish a firm trust with someone else as defined in the dictionary. So this firm trust. They trust you. You've demonstrated yourself to them. They trust you in whatever capacity it is that you are standing in and have demonstrated yourself to be capable of. In episode 5 of this podcast, we detailed how to gain confidence and why it is invaluable. And it was an episode that was inspired by the book that is a bestseller, and I highly recommend it, called The Confidence Code. And I've provided a link to it on today's show notes. But it talks about this first concept that I want to bring up with regards to understanding what true self-confidence is, that I think is often misunderstood. And it simply is this idea of faking it until you make it. It is imperative that in order to not convey arrogance, but rather confidence, that we refuse to fake this. We refuse to fake being confident in something. In other words, we need to let go of the life advice maxim that seems to be quite ubiquitous, which is, as I mentioned, fake it until you make it. If you fake it, you overstep. You don't have the credibility and people will not trust you. The goal is to gain authentically other people's trust, and this takes time. Which means you need to be you and do what you love and what comes naturally, where you find your flow and where you acknowledge others' strengths and successes, where you recognize new ideas and thus adjust your ideas accordingly. Being adamant is not being confident, especially so if your stance on any issue needs to be adjusted as new knowledge is put forth. In other words, exuding true confidence comes from showing, not telling. Simply put, our actions, how we carry ourselves, how we handle difficult situations, how we prepare for our projects, conferences, speeches, etc., how we respond to questions when asked, when we engage in conversations, what is it that we share, and how do we speak, our tone, our listening skills, our responses, how do we go about our lives when nobody is necessarily watching. This is what's going to build that confidence within you and then build that trust for others to have confidence in you as well. Confidence is gained from continual growth. It involves a bit of vulnerability to put yourself out there and show your strengths, but also recognition that is in your actions that build upon themselves to build trust with others and to demonstrate to yourself that yes, what you have to offer is valuable, but first you must acknowledge this truth to yourself. So that's number 1. Understand what true self-confidence is in order to be your full self, not less and not more. Number 2. Let go of the need of wanting everyone to like or approve of what you do or say. Become more comfortable walking away and not taking it personally when someone doesn't approve of your behavior, ideas, lifestyle, etc. First, this is where having confidence will help strengthen your resolve to not be so shaken when someone speaks ill of you or your work. Second, this doesn't mean constructive feedback shouldn't be considered. After all, in order to grow, so long as the source who is relaying this feedback is trusted, credible, and wishes only to help, not tear down what you have put out into the world, consider their feedback. On the other hand, whether it is with relationships, career pursuits, lifestyle choices, or political ideologies, while we may intrinsically want others to like us, agree with us, go along with our ideas, accept us, date us, marry us, hire us, vote for us, etc., we want them to like our full self, not a version of what we think they would accept. Because in time, we will no longer be able to stay confined inside the box we have initially put ourselves in, and the other has accepted that we stay. Our breaking out will come in all different forms. It could be getting angry, it could be ending a relationship, etc. There's just so many different ways that it reveals itself. But rest assured, it will come eventually. So number 2 is let go of the need to want everyone to like or approve of what you say or do. Today's episode of the Simple Sophisticate is sponsored by Drops. Lighten your load. Drops delivers powerful, eco-friendly cleaning products direct to your door. From laundry detergent pods to dishwasher detergent pods, they've got you covered. They've invented the laundry pod, And then they made it better. You'll never find any fancy swirls or dyes in Drops products because they know that color doesn't clean. Instead, their detergent formulas offer a plant-based, chlorine-free, biodegradable way to take care of your home. Subscribe and save an extra 20% with automatic Drops wash plans. No membership fees or gotchas. You can skip, delay, or modify your order at any time. The best part? Free shipping on all orders. Drops is EPA's Safer Choice Partner of the Year. In 2017, it received the EPA's Safer Choice Partner of the Year for outstanding achievement. It is also cruelty-free and never tests on animals. They believe in kindness, not in taking harmful shortcuts. Having had the opportunity to use Drops, I have been enjoying their lavender drops as well as their XL wool dryer balls. The dryer balls come in black, white, and gray, and they save time, energy, and money as they are handmade, all natural, and 100% premium New Zealand wool dryer balls that will last for 100 dry cycles. Simply put them in the similar color dryer, and you will have static-free clothing without having to go and buy another box of dryer sheets. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, you have the opportunity to visit drops.com/simple30 to receive 30% off your first order of convenient plastic-free, eco-friendly cleaning. That's drops, DROPPS.com/simple30 and use the promo code simple30 to get an extra 30% off your first order. Every drop counts. The Simple Sophisticate is also sponsored by All Modern. All Modern recognizes that modern life is not simple, but a modern home can be. With All Modern being an online-only destination for everything modern, it is priced for real life and has fast and free shipping on all furniture. Offering mid-century and Scandinavian to minimalist modern styles, find what you're looking for at a great price and welcome it into your home in a matter of days. Now, I've had the opportunity to purchase a few items from All Modern, and I can attest that they have very swift shipping. I recently ordered a double mattress that came in a box and was here in just a matter of 4 days, and before I knew it, my guest bedroom has come together. In fact, I recently had my first guest on, and they raved about the comfort of this mattress at a very affordable price. And I was tickled by that. Number one, I want my guests to be comfortable, but number two, I could afford the mattress as it was available at a very reasonable price. Now, as a Simple Sophisticate listener, you will receive 10% off your first purchase at allmodern.com by simply using the promo code SIMPLE. That's promo code SIMPLE for 10% off your first purchase. You're already on your phone, so check it out. You could find your next sofa before the end of this podcast. Our third way that you can become your full self, not less, not more, is one that is hard to do initially. And I think this is often the one that stops us in our tracks. I know it did for me for a long time, and I'm still working through it, to be honest, on different aspects of my life. But it has proven to be the necessary piece to being fully who I am. And it is finding the courage to be vulnerable. The most frightening part of being our fullest selves is knowing that there is a possibility we will be dismissed, rejected, ignored, laughed at, simply not accepted for who we are. But the comfort, the safety net, so to speak, is the self-confidence we have built and take with us everywhere we go. If you understand your self-worth, which has been with you since the day you were born and will always be with you your entire life, you know that you have immense value that the world is fortunate to have. In 2011, I wrote a post sharing 10 ways to strengthen your self-worth. And one vital point shared was that, quote, we all have self-worth. It's a matter of finding it within ourselves. Once we accept and acknowledge and know that we are worthy, the amazing journey of finding our purpose, of discovering our passions, and living our most fulfilling life can truly begin. Now, I've included a link to that post should you want to look at it, but I think it will help you realize that there is a distinct difference between self-worth and self-esteem. We are born with self-worth. We are a valuable individual, no matter who we are, no matter what our life experience. Self-esteem is something we have to build, and so I distinguish between those two in that post. Once you acknowledge how awesome you are all on your own, those rejections, those negative responses that none of us are seeking, but will eventually at some point or another run up against, will more easily become a part of the past and roll off your back. But first, you must establish your self-confidence. Here's a quote from Steve Erie, who is a confidence coach who appeared on themuse.com. It's no surprise that confidence is the foundation that makes it okay to be vulnerable. It's the layer of self-trust that allows you to take a few bricks out of that wall and know you'll be okay, to really show up and to show others who you are. Real, natural confidence is trust rather than second guessing. It's congruency rather than compartmentalization. It's ease rather than resistance. If you are someone as well, just as myself for a time, that felt that you had to shrink yourself in order to live life, then you know how uncomfortable and confining it can be to live such a life. Such experience is not wasted. There is lemonade in this lemon, so to speak, because now that we know how to become our full selves, we can make sure we don't expect others to shrink or become less around us. With empathy, we can make sure that this harm to others doesn't continue, to women or men. But we must stand strong in our full selves and become comfortable with walking away, communicating clearly, but with clarity and calm certainty, and recognizing that these are both skills, both the shrinking to be less and the expanding to be our full selves. And so while it took time to learn how to shrink, it will take time to learn how to be fully who we truly are out in the world. For me, there are 3 aspects that are the most difficult part of being fully who I am. The first one is not holding on to the past of how I have been treated by the same people I am trying to be fully myself with, and bringing unhelpful, rash, and reactionary emotions with me. And I want to make sure I'm being clear here. While I have walked away from those I could, sometimes we don't have a choice, as we either work for or with people that have wanted us to remain small, or are related to these people and see them at holiday occasions where they are not there on our own invitation. So that's the first thing that's been difficult for me, and I'm moving through that and getting better at that. The second thing is letting go of the guilt that has been instilled by society for being stronger than it wanted me to be, whether that guilt was exhibited when I chose to use my voice or had an idea to share or let go of someone. I am letting go of that guilt because it is not something that I need to carry. It is not truth. It is imposed by society to try to keep me behaving in a way that is less. And lastly, believing in what I wanted to bring to the world more and considering the certain critics that will inevitably arise less. So it's that, again, that trusting in my self-confidence, trusting in myself, and letting that commentary that is going to come. That is actually a sign that you're putting yourself out there. So if you're receiving that, that's not bad, because I have a feeling you're probably receiving just as much, if not more, positive. But we do tend to hone in on the negative because we're trying to protect ourselves. We don't like hearing that, but we have to remember that is inevitably going to happen. But we need to focus on the positive, make sure we're not missing any constructive feedback that would be helpful, and then let go of the other stuff that's just there to try to cut us down and keep us in our place, which is not our place, in fact. So as you can see, it takes time, and I am on this journey with you. Some of us are going to be way down the road and done primarily, although we have to continually keep practicing this, and others will be at the very first part of the stages. The rest of us will be somewhere in the middle in that continuum. So as you can see, it takes time and awareness of what is most difficult for each of us. But we can each attain the place of being fully who we are each day and moment of our lives, no matter who we are with. And that is the success we want to attain. When we do this, we can support and nurture others who are daring to take this brave step to be themselves and encourage them, not laugh or limit or dismiss, so that we can all rise to our best selves. However, it starts with supporting yourself and giving yourself permission to be exactly who you are. Just be you. And in your being, you will dazzle, amaze, and find the people who delight in exactly who you are. Trust this journey that you are going to be taking yourself on. It is worth the initial struggle to shift into being fully who you are and let go of being less. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I think we could have a lot of commentary on this topic, so feel free to share a comment. Again, this is an ongoing process. This is something that we can practice, but also that we can cultivate more of throughout our lives with others as well. I have provided the links that I mentioned in today's episode on the show notes, the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 249, and I'll be right back with this week's Petit Plaisir. This week's Petit Plaisir is a film that I just happened to come across as I was on Netflix. I think this is back in January, I think it was, that I came across it. I do enjoy Agatha Christie and her novels, and I especially enjoy David Suchet as Hercule Poirot and all of the films that included him in them. And so when I came across this film titled Agatha and the Truth of Murder, I checked it out and to see what it was all about. And what it is, it's a fictional tale. This is not a documentary about her life and what happened during the 11 days that she mysteriously went missing in 1926. What it is a mystery that stars Irish actress Ruth Brady as Agatha Christie at the age of 36, as her marriage to Archibald Christie is coming to an end. They divorced officially in 1928. But nowhere in her autobiography does she share where she went or what happened to her during these 11 days in December of 1926. So no one to this day has, if they do know, they haven't shared, knows what actually happened. And so this film takes liberties to imagine what may have happened those 11 days in December 1926. And it's playful and lighthearted, but it definitely is a murder mystery. And so it's set in December 1926. And we have Ruth Bradley playing Agatha Christie, and she goes undercover to solve a mystery. It is a lot of fun to watch. And here is the trailer of Agatha and the Truth of Murder.
Hello, Mrs. Christie. I want you to help me solve a murder.
I'm a writer, not a detective.
Please, she deserves justice.
Let's start at the beginning.
Thank you. 6 years ago, Florence, Nurse Nightingale's goddaughter, was bludgeoned to death on a train. They never caught the killer, and I've been investigating ever since.
I need to solve a murder. I have to pretend to be someone else.
I think her cousin killed her. He's called Randolph. He inherited the trust fund.
Where's the lawyer?
Daphne. Florence's report would have seen her barred from nursing.
I was cleared.
That woman almost wrecked her life.
One of Florence's wastes and strays. He wouldn't leave her alone. He wanted money, I'm sure.
You were arrested for murder in January 1920. Is that true?
Travis Pickford. A nasty piece of work.
They tried to pin it on me.
Who was Florence visiting?
Mrs. Pamela Rose.
She's a suspect. Same's true for anyone who knew what train she was on.
My mother and I have nothing to do with this absurd game.
This is as insulting as it is stupid.
So that makes 5. Well, unless you count me.
My name is Detective Inspector Dix.
No offence, but none of you lot look like the killing type.
What is it they say about revenge? Dig 2 graves.
If Mrs. Christie were writing this, Mrs. Westmacott would be guilty.
Does your work involve undermining my investigation?
Of course not. We just need to keep digging.
She is a fraud.
I couldn't murder anyone.
This is an intolerable situation.
We can agree on that.
Doesn't look good when our boys come home and start murdering civilians.
A while ago, I realised I write about obsession, the inability to clear something from one's mind. Mabel is obsessed with finding the killer of the person she loved. I came here to help.
The film is called Agatha and the Truth of Murder, and you can find the film on Netflix exclusively. I'll provide a link to that on today's show notes. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each Monday's podcast, where I'll recommend a book, a film, or a recipe. Anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com, or pick up my new book, Living a Simply Luxurious Life, Making Your Everydays Extraordinary and Discovering Your Best Self. You can also pick up my first book, Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, A Modern Woman's Guide, which is available now in paperback, ebook, and audio versions on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes, or wherever books are sold. To stay caught up on the most recent episodes of the podcast, blog posts, my new cooking show, and receive exclusive news as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart your weekend, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's weekly newsletter, which arrives in your inbox each Friday to enjoy with a hot cup of tea or a morning cup of coffee. Until next Monday, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Bonne journée!